Hello, and welcome to Season 4 of the Wedding Whisperer podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Burton, wedding concierge and owner of Simply Love Studio, coming to you from the heart of Central Kentucky. Around here, weddings are more than a single day. They're about family tradition, a little bit of chaos, and a whole lot of love. And my job is to help you navigate all of that with clarity and confidence while staying on budget. At Simply Love Studio, I help couples plan their weddings for free, connecting you with the right vendors, realistic timelines, and thoughtful guidance so that you can enjoy the process. This season, we're diving deeper into real connections, what works, what doesn't, and how to plan a wedding that truly feels like you. Whether you're newly engaged, deep in planning, or just love a good behind-the-scenes wedding story, you're in the right place. I'm excited for today's episode because we are talking about a few of my favorite things. As an elder millennial, I grew up on Lunchables, and I still currently eat the cheese and fruit platters at Starbucks anytime I am out and about. That is my go-to. So when charcuterie became a thing and you could order it at restaurants for the appetizer or even the meal, my life was changed forever because I'm always so picky. Today's guest is Marian Turner, and she is the owner of Rose Brie Charcuterie. Marian, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be here.
Do you hear that often, that people are just excited about meat and cheese and crackers?
Who doesn't love cheese, right? I mean, I get a little bit lactose intolerant and I don't even care. Just give me all of the cheese. Give me, all of that stuff. And like you said, we grew up on Lunchables, crackers, ham, and cheese. That was our thing. Meat and cheese and fruit, vegetables, that's all going to be in that charcuterie board, and it comes now with a lot of different accompaniments and all the extra goodies.
Before we really dive in, share with our listeners a little bit about yourself. Although you're not new to owning a business, you are a little newer to the wedding industry.
Yeah, so my name is Marian. As you said, I own Rose Brie Charcuterie. We've been officially a business for about a year now, but beforehand, I was creating boards for family and friends, and I have always just loved bringing people together. So when I really fell in love with the artistry of making charcuterie boards and, grazing tables and these beautiful spreads, I noticed how it just brought people together. You're all sharing kind of the same thing and eating, and it's also just a special kind of experience. Rose Brie came from my love of bringing people together, and so entering the wedding industry, I love bringing an elevated, styled sense to the charcuterie and that business.
Where did the name Rose Brie come from?
Oh my gosh. So I had the hardest time coming up with a name for my business, and it took a couple months. I wanted something that felt elegant, but also familiar, and also have a little sense of like that Irish pub kind of feel. The middle name of my oldest daughter is Rose. Amelia Rose, and so that is where the Rose came in, and Brie is just one of my absolute favorite cheeses, so I just thought, pairing those two together, Rose and Brie Charcuterie, it rhymes, it has such a warm but elevated feel to it. I was like, okay, this is it, I'm sticking with it, we're done.
And then where does the word charcuterie actually come from?
Yeah, so I had to do a little bit of research about that because someone asked me several months ago, and I dug into it. So it's actually a French word that originated in like the early 1900s, and originally it just had to do with like cured meats. It really didn't have to do with anything with boards. But in this modern kind of world we live in, it has transformed from just being cured meats and like deli kind of thing into these beautiful, spreads with jams and jellies and honeys, fresh fruit, crackers, cheeses, a whole mix of flavors and textures.
I remember the first time I was at a restaurant and someone ordered charcuterie. It probably took me 6 months to say the word, and I may not even be saying it properly. You talked a little bit about you kind of just started at home, started small, and grew over time. How have things changed in a way that maybe you didn't see coming?
So when I started the business, I was really just planning on, really just doing family and friends, and things like that. I never thought that it would take off the way it has. Um, I thought that my smaller kind of boards were going to be my main item that people would really love, like my $50 to $75 boards. But very quickly I learned that this is what people want for cocktail hour. This is what people want for their bridal showers and their baby showers and their birthdays. Is like I was saying earlier, it's that the gathering and the sense of friendship and familiarity all together. People want that. And the way that I make charcuterie and these grazing tables is not only delicious, but it brings such a sense of artistry and color and vibrancy to it. It's not just a typical lunchable, so to speak, right? But there's so much more that goes into it. And I'm so happy that it has evolved the way it has, because now I have a commercial kitchen, and I have my work van, and all of the things that I definitely would not have seen myself in a year ago.
What are some of the most popular items that people request in their boards, or what are some that maybe you suggest to everyone that are just kind of always crowd favorites?
Yeah. I think what people get most excited about are all of the different cheeses and all of the different pairings. Of course, brie, because it's in my name, is always, kind of like a crowd favorite. And it pairs well with both sweet and savory, and you can have it cold and you can have it warm. Brie is super, super versatile in that way. I think it's one of the only cheeses that I'm like, you could do whatever you want with this and it will work for you. Um, Another thing that's a little bit more elevated and not necessarily the easiest to find is honeycomb. It pairs really, really well with spicy meats, sweet meats, and all different kinds of berries and cheeses.
Speaking of berries, do you use any like Kentucky Proud products or anything from the farmer's market? Like, where do your cheeses and meats and stuff come from?
Yeah, so Rose Brie is a Kentucky Proud business.
Oh,
So
okay.
we try to get as much local ingredients as possible. Sometimes that can look a little different. A couple months ago, strawberries were really, really hard to find. Maybe even yourself was like, oh my gosh, I can't find a good batch of strawberries. No matter where you looked, nobody had strawberries. And when you're looking, at seasonal items as well, strawberries are only in season during the summer here in Kentucky. I try to use local ingredients as much as possible, and I love making those options available for people as well.
Talking about local, I think some of the best grapes I have ever actually had are from my hometown, to Monticello. It's actually from an apple barn, and I don't know anything about grapes, but they always come out every day, every year on Labor Day. I don't know if we even have anybody that grows grapes around Lexington, but I swear those grapes are literally life changing, and nothing would make me happier than to have those with some cheese, some meat.
Something actually really interesting is that Kentucky is on the same linear line as a lot of places in like France and Italy. So when you're
Oh,
looking at growing wine grapes, Kentucky in the elevation is really, really good for growing wine grapes. Here in Nicholasville, we have actually one of the very first vineyards that was founded by some of our founding fathers called First Vineyard, which is really a really cool place to visit if you ever get the chance.
I have actually never been out there. I know they used to do weddings. I'm not sure if they still do, but I didn't know any of that about the grapes here. So that's cool. We've talked about some of the most popular items. Let's talk a little bit about the different ways that people can order products from you, what you see being the most popular. We talked a little bit about just a general board, and you talked about the 50 to 75 people range that it can feed. What are like your different options for the boards as a whole?
I have a bunch of different options now. So it's not just like you said, the smaller boards, but the most popular are going to be the grazing tables, and there's two different styles for those. We have the flat lay, which is all on one surface, and then we have the multi-tiered as well, where I bring in lots of different boards and basically make different elevations and heights for the display as well. Those are probably the two most popular options with the grazing table. But I also have charcuterie cups. I have charcuterie boxes. Those are going to be more single served items that are both really, really fun. And you can customize both of those, which brides love to do with initials or wedding dates or something like that. Something really fun as well is going to be the charcuterie wine toppers. So it's a little topper that sits on top of your wine glass. So you can have a couple little nibbles while you're enjoying a drink. That's really great for bridal parties and smaller kind of events.
For the cups, you have the option for you to make those or for them to build their own at the event. Is that correct?
Yes. Last year, I came up with the idea of the build your own charcuterie cup bar. So it's this interactive experience, typically during cocktail hour. So not everybody's rushing the bar, to grab a drink. Sometimes that can get super overwhelming and you've got this long line and crowd. So that build your own charcuterie cup bar is a great way to divide those crowds out. And that bar consists of 5 to 6 different types of skewers. And so you can pick and choose what you want to go in your cup. So it starts out with you choosing your cracker. You can choose a pretzel rod or like a cracker, some things to go in the bottom of your cup, like nuts, or chocolates, and then choose, 2 or 3 skewers to go in your cup. So that's a great way to kind of please everybody because I offer, meat and cheese options. I offer just cheese, just fruit. You could even do things like our pesto marinated caprese, which is really, really popular and delicious. And I've also had people, want all vegan options or all vegetarian options, gluten-free options. The build your own is a great way to kind of give everybody what they want and then they can choose.
Talked about at the beginning, I'm so picky and I hate when things are already pre-made and like if it's something that's past, I have a shellfish allergy. So there's a lot of things, a lot of times that I can't eat or I'm too scared to even try because it's maybe touched something. That's one of the things that I really like about it is it's so versatile. I recommend charcuterie for probably most couples to have during cocktail hour because it's pretty. It takes up a good amount of room. It takes people a while to eat it. And it's something that everybody enjoys.
Yes. And it's a great conversation piece as well. At weddings, you've got, so many different people who have never met each other before. And it's all your favorite people. You've got all your favorite people in one space. And it's such a great opportunity to get everyone together around something beautiful and delicious.
Absolutely. And if you are not having a first look, then I don't want to say you're required to have a cocktail hour, but you need to have a cocktail hour. Even a lot of times, if you have the first look, you still have to wrap some things up with photos. Or if you're moving from a church to a reception site, there's going to be time there that your guests need to occupy.
Especially if your wedding, there's going to be some children, you're definitely going to want to have some food because those kids, they eat every 2 hours. I mean, they're just nonstop. Um, and it doesn't even matter their age. I have a toddler and a preteen. Both of them just clean me out of the pantry, of the fridge all the time. If you are having kids at your wedding, another big must, food during cocktail hour.
We mentioned the build your own kind of station, but I have also seen where you can do boards for each individual table. A lot of times, if the DJ sends guests to the table while we're waiting for the bridal party to get lined up to come in for a welcome, it's a great way for everybody at the table to get to know each other if they don't. But it's another way kind of to buy some time.
Yes, absolutely. So we also offer the centerpiece charcuterie, is what we call it, and we have two different offerings for square or round tables. And that's a really good price option for people as well, because it starts out around $150 per table, and that's usually like 8 to 10 servings. So depending on how many tables you have, it's a really good price point, and it kind of takes something off your plate as well, because that decoration is the charcuterie. So when you're thinking about pricing, it's like, well, maybe the charcuterie is a little bit more than you planned, but then you don't have to get flowers for the table or candles or something like that.
That would be great too, even before corporate events or fundraisers, instead of doing all live flowers, to entertain people during that as well, especially like during a silent auction time. Again, we're buying time. Any way that I can entertain people and feed them while we're buying time, I'm here for that. I tried to make a list of different ways we could incorporate charcuterie into wedding festivities. A couple of the ones that came to mind first are engagement parties.
Bridal showers. And, I offer a couple boards that it's just easy. You can pick it up on the way to your bridal shower, or I'm happy to bring it to you if you're here in Lexington, Kentucky.
And then, of course, rehearsal dinners. With rehearsal dinners, a lot of our venues here, you get the venue Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So a lot of times on Friday evenings, the couple will choose to stay at the venue. And so it's a great option to bring it in. And it can be a little bit more casual, or you can make it formal.
Rehearsal dinners and welcome parties, because they're kind of like two in the same. And again, charcuterie, it's great because it is easy, it's simple, it pleases everybody, but it's also beautiful, and it gives something for people to talk about. Like, oh my gosh, look at this salami rose, or the details here, or the way these grapes just cascade down. There's always going to be something to talk about and to please even the pickiest eater.
One of the very last conversations I will have with brides before the wedding is, what are you feeding your wedding party on the morning of the wedding? Are you staying in an Airbnb the night before? Where are you getting ready? What are the rules on food? Because we never want anybody to be hangry on the wedding day, and we want you to be able to just enjoy that morning. I think it's one of the best uses of a charcuterie board as a whole is the morning of the wedding.
Yes, that is actually my special that I run at wedding shows, is a free bridal brunch board if you book with me. So that is like meats and cheeses and fruits, waffles, bacon, small bites that you can have the morning of your wedding. So like you said, you're not hangry, but you're also not worried about messing up your lipstick or getting something on your dress. You can eat it while your hair is getting done or your eyelashes are getting curled. It's easy, and I can just bring it to you and drop it off, and it's simple, ready to go. And again, everyone loves it.
I try to stay away from greasy things on the day of as well, just to kind of keep everybody's stomach and nerves and that kind of thing. And I also think like having something like that at the Airbnb the night before, or even 2 nights before, if people are coming in early, that way it's in the refrigerator. People can pick at it, keeping your guests happy. It's not even just about your experience and your guest experience. It's about your wedding party's experience as well, because a lot of them have flown in, they've driven in, they've spent, a good amount of money on their attire and getting hair and makeup done. It's just, those last few hours, we want to make sure that they're taken care of as well. And this is one of the ways to do it that you may not even think about.
Another offering I have that the grooms really, really love are boards to pair with cocktails or mimosas, or Bloody Marys are really, really popular. With the Bloody Mary, while I don't supply the alcohol, I supply all of the fixings to go in that. So, like shrimp and celery, all of the stuff that you would want in a little fun, more adult beverage.
One of the things we've talked a little bit about is the different things that you can put in your trays and your boards. Like, even if a couple works with you several times during the planning process, for a shower, rehearsal dinner, the morning of, like, every single one can be completely different because there are so many options available.
And I never create the same thing twice. A lot of the corporate companies are going to look at a binder and just make something from a picture. I just make what I am gathering from the vibe and talking to the bride and their family and what they want. And then when I'm compiling that, I'm just using my own sense of artistry, pairings and color theory, even all of those things to create that board. So no board is ever going to be the same. I don't even know if I could replicate my own work, even if I wanted to. While I love getting, Pinterest boards and inspiration, I often tell my clients I will not make something exactly the same that someone else has done, because I want this to be individual for you. That's part of the specialness of it, is no one's going to have this exact same grazing table or board or anything. This is just for you.
And it's just like flowers for a wedding. They can send a Pinterest board and give you an idea. A florist can probably never recreate that centerpiece or that bouquet exactly the same again. So I hadn't thought about it that way, but that's 100% accurate. Then, of course, for the wedding evening, they can do cocktail hour, the build your own cup, or it can be preset. As far as the grazing table, if it is the actual meal for the couple, how do you go about deciding like how much each guest is going to eat so that you make sure that there is plenty of food on the grazing table?
So what I do is basically just double the servings. If it is going to be a meal, then I will double the servings. So instead of like 100 guests, you'd plan for 200. My pricing is based off of the appetizer portion. And so when you're talking about a meal, you're going to want not only more of the charcuterie, but you might also want different add-ons as well, which is something I also offer, like yummy meatballs or chicken salad sandwiches, different offerings like that. And when we're talking about those larger grazing tables, you will of course get charcuterie and meats and cheeses, but it's also, veggies and hummus and fruit trays and caprese and lots of other delicious things that are incorporated into that.
And of course, late night snacks. Have you done any late night snacks for weddings yet?
Yes, yes. So, what I like to do with late night snacks is lean more into the sweet side of things. So, it may incorporate chocolate covered strawberries, that chocolate dessert spreads, cannolis, more sweet things, but also offering some savory things, because you hear it all the time. You forget to eat during your wedding, and then you are starving once all of that adrenaline is done. So it's, your regular meats, cheeses, pickles, olives, honey, fruit, but also some of the sweeter elements too. Because when you're, done with the wedding and things are winding down, there's nothing better than to have a sip of champagne and a chocolate covered strawberry.
And one of the reasons I was thinking about as I was working on like the list for ways we could use charcuterie, I am, again, I'm very weird with food. I'm not a big leftover fan. And I feel like a lot of times I see the late night snacks. I had one couple that did White Castle. I've had couples that have done like cheeseburgers from McDonald's. There's pizza a lot of times, but a lot of people will eat those things cold.
If it's a late night snack, I could make boxes or cups and put those in the fridge, so they're just easy for the pickup at the end of the night.
Because I see a lot of times so much of the late night snacks just get tossed. because no way to transport it. I think if you're being a little bit more strategic about that, I think your investment for a late night stack could go further. If you're doing a morning after brunch, or if you're not, or if you're going to Keeneland for tailgating, that's some stuff that you can include as well, or feed yourself before you go to those. I do feel like talking about engagement parties and welcome parties, I do think morning after brunches are starting to come back as well, because we do have so many people coming in from out of town here for weddings, and it's kind of your last goodbye before everybody leaves.
With my commercial kitchen, I have an oven, so I can bake lots of goodies for brunch boards and spreads, muffins, croissants, and I do that all myself.
And I've mentioned Airbnb several times. Like, I am more of a hotel person personally, but whenever you have the big groups of people and you have 15 and 20 people that all want to stay together, having them dropped off at the Airbnb for your guests, the morning of, or even when they arrive for the beginning of the weekend, I think that would be a great idea. And then, of course, Keeneland. I feel like most weddings that happen in April and October are throwing some Keeneland in there somehow.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm happy to drop it off as well. So here in Lexington, not everything is an hour drive away. It's pretty close. So if you're like, yeah, I'm tailgating at Keeneland, I don't care to pull up and drop off for you.
As a couple is kind of working on their final decisions for the wedding, for their food, for all the different events, and they're thinking charcuterie could be something fun to add, how do you work with them to figure out what is the best option for them?
So my process really is to have that initial consultation where I gather, what are you looking for? What do you envision? What do you picture? And then what do you need? Because sometimes what you want and what you need are two totally separate things. And then there's your budget, So with those three elements, we kind of work together to figure out, okay, how we can work together. And then after that initial consultation, of course, is the deposit to reserve your date. But then about 2 months before your event, I'm going to sit down with you, and I call it my details call. Let's go over who has allergies. Does your Aunt Kim have a shellfish allergy? Is Uncle Rod a celiac? Do we need some gluten-free options? And then show me your Pinterest boards. What are your wedding colors? How, do you want this set up? Where do you want this set up? What time do you want this set up? And then are you leaning more black tie with white and black trays and elements, or are you wanting that rustic feel with wood and sage and eucalyptus and greenery? So during that details call is really where we get into those nitty gritty things.
And you made some trays for one of our Simply Love vendor networking events. And whenever I picked them up, you had made a comment about you had separated something because of allergies. And that had literally never crossed my mind. I usually think about vendors as far as like when they're vegetarian, or I have one that is vegan. I try to think through those things. But honestly, I've never even thought about the allergy thing. I guess nobody has told me that. And having an allergy myself, I should have thought about that. So that's really good that you do ask. And a lot of times, most couples, I do feel like if there's one that's very glaring in their family or in the wedding party or something, that they will mention that. And then one of the things that I really appreciated about whenever you did the trays for our networking event, and I think I even told you this, was that you separated the crackers. That way, everything else could go in the refrigerator and the crackers were separate. Because when you put the crackers in the refrigerator, they get soggy, and then I can no longer eat said crackers. So it's little things like that I feel like you kind of go above and beyond maybe some other options that I have used in the past. And that's, again, just me being picky. But I think that really makes a difference. And I think it sets you apart because I think it shows that A, you know what you're doing, and B, that you care and that you want it to truly be good for your couples or your clients in general.
Everything I make, I try to make, with love, like I would be making it for, a family member. Every single client I feel some kind of connection to, and I want to bring the very best to their event, whether it is a small date night or a huge, large wedding. Recently, I actually had a chance to get to talk to a a couple and the fiance proposed with one of my charcuterie boards, and I just about cried because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so special, and what a cool way to, be incorporated in such a cool, special life event.
I love that. That's so cool. We talked a little bit about inspiration photos. Obviously, you're not going to make it exactly the same, but is Pinterest where you recommend couples look for those, or Instagram, TikTok as a whole, just anywhere that there are pretty pictures?
Yeah, I always refer people to my website first. I've got a ton
Yeah.
of pictures on there. And then, you can kind of see a lot of the different options that I have. But yes, Pinterest is a great place. Instagram is a great place. Even TikTok with videos and, all of those kind of things. Those are all great and fun resources. The one thing I have run across here recently is AI has done a lot as far as entering the world of fake food options. And so I have, gotten some, hey, look at this inspo pic. I love this. And I'm like, oh, well, that's beautiful, but it's AI. Um, I cannot stand a salami rose on a tiny little stick. That is impossible. But we could do something else or something similar. Or I've also seen poisonous flowers paired on boards, and I'm like, well, can't use baby's breath. That's actually poisonous. You can't put that on a board, but there are plenty of other edible flowers we can work with.
And that's the same for wedding cakes. There are flowers that you should not be putting on your wedding cakes either. So having someone that is a professional and knowing those things is extremely important. One of the things that I really appreciate about your website, normally in most of my podcasts, we talk a little about money and budgets and how much things cost. But one of the things that I love about your website is you are very transparent about your pricing. I was literally, before we recorded this, I was looking at something and I was going through website to website. I'm like, I don't know, have any idea what this costs. I'm like, somebody just give me an idea, and I don't even want to email and schedule with somebody if I don't know what it costs. Just having basic pricing, I think, is so good for people to be able to see. And when they start, wanting to budget for a cocktail hour or rehearsal dinner, even before they reach out, it's on there. It gives them a good starting point to even know if it's in their budget at all.
Right. And that is something that has always been really important to me, is being transparent with pricing, because nothing is worse than getting your hopes up and thinking, oh, I can't wait for, this super special thing, and then getting that quote back and it is 3 times the amount that you were expecting. And then you're just crushed. So, I want to be transparent with that. Which, as I'm growing and things are getting more expensive in the world, so my pricing will change. But again, I'm very transparent, and all of the pricing will be updated on my website as well. And not only do I have pricing for, your everyday boards, but I also have my entire list of my event and catering guide on there as well.
Let's actually talk about the price of one thing. You talked about the brunch boards on the morning of the wedding being your specialty. If somebody is listening to this and that was something that had not even crossed their minds yet, walk me through a little bit of the pricing on that. Is it per guest? Is it just a flat fee? How does that one kind of work, since that is a really popular one?
So for my brunch boards, they are $120 for 5 to 10 servings. So I always try to give a range of servings, because some people are really, really big eaters and they're going to eat a lot. And some people are little eaters and they're going to eat, just a couple little bites. So $120 initially, you're like, ooh, that's a big spend. Not sure about that. But when you're breaking it up to per person, you're looking at $12 a person. You're going to spend more than that going to McDonald's. And having a brunch board that is, specialty to you and what you're looking for, I think that means so much more.
And I know one of my brides worked with you. I think her wedding was in September. It was downtown at Limestone Hall, and she stayed at the Statesman Airbnb
Yes, yes.
across the street from that. And like she did hair and makeup there, and it was just a perfect day because they didn't have to leave. It was all right there. She actually, whenever she sent me a thank you email, she actually mentioned you specifically and
Oh,
how
that's so
she
sweet.
enjoyed working with you and how that really kind of made the morning just a little extra fun. So.
Yes. I don't mind at all, bringing those to Airbnbs and dropping those off and setting them up for people because I know how important the morning of your wedding is and how busy it is. And I know for my wedding, I think all I had to eat was drinking an Alani energy drink, and that doesn't really cut it. You need something a little bit more substantial.
Yes, we do not want a bride or groom or anybody just drinking an Alani on the morning of.
Yes.
If someone is listening to this and they kind of want to look at some more pictures and follow you on social media, how can they find you?
My website is www.roseandbrie.com, all spelled out. And then I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm trying my best at TikTok. But Rose Brie Charcuterie, you can find me on all of those platforms.
Have you done any time-lapse videos of you building trays or tables?
Yes, recently I did a time lapse of me building 52 charcuterie boxes for an event at Void Sake, which was super, super fun. It was a girls' brunch. We were listening to 90s music and jamming out. It was such a great time. And everybody had their own individual brunch charcuterie box that had, muffins and donut holes and meats and cheeses, crackers, all of that yummy stuff. So it was a great event. But that time lapse video shows most of the work that went into it. I had to cut out about 75% of the way through because my phone battery was dying.
I love watching time-lapse videos. Jason from Kentucky Pro DJ, they had one, it's been a couple years now, but like where there was nothing set up and then the whole system was set up and how many trips of stuff they brought in and just the whole process of it, because those are things we don't get to see every day. And anytime I can watch a time lapse of anything, I think it's fascinating. And I would say to see food and to see you cutting everything. And I think that would be super cool.
And it's always amazing how much work goes into these things because a lot of the times you'll hear, oh, well, I can do that myself. Or, oh, yeah, my granny can throw together a charcuterie board for, the morning of, and it won't be that big of a deal. Well, you're not taking in to consideration the time that goes into it because you're thinking shopping and gathering. And for me, it's going to be ordering from local vendors and local shops, getting all of that stuff in. And then it's going to be all of the prep work, cutting all of those cheeses, folding all of the meats into the roses or rosettes, rivers, ribbons, all of the different ways I can do that. And then washing all of the fruit, washing the veggies, cutting those. It is hours and hours of work that is not taken into consideration to create these boards.
It also has to get to you on the morning of. It's always one last step as well. So there are some things that I do think that couples can DIY for wedding festivities. Anything food related is not anywhere near the top of that list. So even morning of food, like anything food, we're leaving to the professionals, and definitely this. Marian, is there anything else you would like to share with couples today? You've been an amazing guest. I feel like you've done a million podcasts. You're so good at this.
Really, I just love to bring people's visions and inspirations to life. So if you are even thinking about doing something like this, I would love to talk to you. And even if you don't want to do charcuterie, but you're thinking of like a macaroni and cheese bar or a mashed potato bar or fun things like that, I am super open and willing to help out any way I can with people. And again, I'm going to treat everybody like they're my best friend because that's just super important to me. And working with Rose and Brie, you're working with me. You're not working with somebody who's going to talk to somebody else, who's going to talk to somebody else. And then the day of your wedding, you have no idea who these servers are. You've never met them a day in your life. You're going to know my face. You are going to know my name. You're going to have my cell phone number.
Thank you so much for joining me. And I will put all of your social media links up so that everybody can go and look at your pictures.
Wedding planning doesn't have to be overwhelming, and you don't have to do it alone. If you want guidance you can trust, I would love to help. At Simply Love Studio, I offer free wedding consultations where we talk through your vision, your budget, and what steps make the most sense for you. There's no pressure, no obligations, no catches, no gimmicks, just honest advice and support to help you move forward with confidence. You can schedule your free consult anytime at simplylovestudio.com, and I promise you'll walk away with clarity and a plan.